Hi everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. We're at the HIMSS 2022 conference and we're with Dr. Clement Goehrs. He's CEO and co-founder of Synapse Medicine. Welcome, Clement.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I think you may have traveled nearly the farthest of anyone from France to be here, but before we dive into all of that, tell us about yourself and Synapse Medicine.
So I'm a public health physician by background, did part of my study in France, part in Stanford, and then I co-founded Synapse Medicine 4 years ago when we really focus on improving what we call medication safety across the whole healthcare industry. So starting from helping physicians decide which drug to prescribe, how to optimize a prescription, big business inside the hospital with all what we call clinical pharmacy, we'll talk about that later, and closing the loop with information to the patient and pharmacovigilance.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You announced, coming now to the U.S. and expanding. You're in a lot of hospitals in France, and you're doing a lot of great work there in Europe. What are you bringing from the international market here to the U.S.?
So, like I said, actually, when I co-founded Synapse, I was living in the U.S., but I chose to start the company in Europe for a number of reasons. So basically, our healthcare system in Europe and the US are very different, but the challenge we have regarding medication safety are the same. Like, nobody gets that right. We all have the same problems. Of course, we had the opioid crisis in the US. We're starting to have that in Europe too. So what we are bringing is our deep expertise regarding pharmacovigilance, regarding medicine, and we have very deep expertise regarding data and medication data. So we're bringing that to the US with the same kind of challenges, and really, we've worked already with some kind of big hospital in the US, and the challenges are the same, and so the tool is almost the same from Europe to the US. So it's great for us because we can replicate a lot of things.
Well, I think that is an interesting piece, right? Like, the billing is totally different, but from medication reconciliation side of things,
actually that's a US process that we have imported in Europe. So the whole process about medication reconciliation was invented in the US, and that was one of the few things that European imported from US regarding healthcare.
Yeah, that's interesting. So why is it so important to do this medication reconciliation, and what are some of the challenges when doing it?
Medication safety is such a huge problem because there are several trends, major trends, like people getting older, more and more chronic disease, and so the consequences are more and more drugs on prescriptions, on average, of course. And so it's super important to get that right and to be able to say, okay, we are sure that this patient takes this list of medication, but that's just, of course, the first step. After that, you want to optimize this prescription. You want to make sure that every single medication on this list, we know why this people is taking that. You want to be sure that the posology is super well adapted. You want to be sure that you will manage the side effects. And it's actually causing thousands and thousands of deaths every year, and actually hundreds of thousands of hospitalization that could be avoided if we get that right. So huge impact on the healthcare system.
Yeah, but why is it so hard to do, right? I mean, explain some of the challenges that you've had to navigate to really work to improve this problem.
So, two main things. It's hard to do because it takes a lot of time. So basically it's been done by pharmacists that have to ask questions to the patients and work with physicians, but mainly driven by the pharmacist. And with not the good tools, it takes a lot of time for them. So the first key things we had to do was to build a tool with them in order to make sure that at the end of the day we can cut the whole time of the process by 3 or by 4, and we've done that. We've come from 1 hour for medication reconciliation to under 15 minutes. Wow. So that's a huge gain in terms of time. The number 2 things is that super complex prescriptions are super complex to optimize, and so that's why you really need a tool where you have all the information. That's what we bring on the table. Most of the time, a pharmacist has to use 1 tool, 2 tools, 3 tools, 1 website, 2 websites in order to get all the information regarding drug-drug interaction, regarding side effect, regarding all of that. In Synapse, they have every tool they use too. So 1 single tab, all the information, and that's helping them.
So is that the key to doing medication reconciliation properly, is having it in 1 tool, or what does it really take to do it the right way?
So what does it take is, first thing, you want all the lists of the complete list of medication of the patient. So 2 ways to do that. We are doing a lot of automation and integration, so of course integrating with source scripts, integrating with a number of different systems in order to pull the information from different kind of system and from the EHR. So you want that, and you want at least 2 or 3 sources of information to make sure that you have the complete what we call best BPMH for the patients. And after, so that's the first thing. And after that, you want to help as much as possible the pharmacist to optimize the prescription. So you want for him or her to be crystal clear what to stop on the prescription and why to do that. So we are providing like the why about why we are saying, okay, we think that you should lower this posology by 2, and this is why, and this is a paper, and this is a guideline that is supporting this process. And that's what it takes to do proper medication reconciliation.
And so does this sit on top of the EHR or maybe the pharmacy system?
Yeah.
How does that integrate? Or
It's all connected to the EHR, so it's a separate tool, of course. It's all SaaS web-based, so it's you just log on app.synapse-medicine.com, and it's connected to your EHR in several ways. And so we are pulling the information regarding, of course, all the information regarding the patient, all the information regarding the clinical condition of the patient, and of course the med history. And at the end of the whole process of medication reconciliation, we are putting information back into the EHR. So it's all integrated in the workflow, because nobody wants another tool outside the workflow, of course.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little. You also have a pharmacovigilance technology named Medication Shield. Tell us about how that works.
That's super cool. That started as a side project, actually. So in France and in actually every country in the world, we have what we call pharmacovigilance system, where the goal is to monitor all the side effects of the drugs that are being commercialized, and to sometimes discover new side effects, and sometimes major one. And at the end, that could lead to some like drugs not being commercialized. So that's super important. But it's super heavy for humans to do that, because most of the time, sometimes you have hundreds and hundreds of servants of side effect declaration, and you have to process that with pharmacists and physicians. So we've worked closely with the French government saying, okay, how can we try to use AI to automatize that? And that was before COVID-19. And so we started this project, and so COVID-19 came, and the vaccination campaign, and they said, okay, we're gonna go with vaccination with millions of people. So we will have hundreds of thousands of side effect declaration. We have to move faster. How do we do that? And luckily enough, we have started this project, and so that's now live and running. And so basically right now in France, nationwide, every time a patient declares a side effect, so you go on the website of the French government, you can say, okay, I took these drugs and I had all these kind of symptoms. So all free text, you can type a lot of things.
Wow,
so submit, all free text, yeah. That's been sent to our server and algorithm that go on this text, understand the text, understand the symptoms, and make a first assessment of the severity.
Okay.
And based on that, based on these first assessments that have been done by AI, after that, a physician and a pharmacist will take the case and will say, okay, I agree, I do agree with the algorithm. And so that's up and running in France right now as we talk.
That's interesting, and it's great that you'll be able to do it at scale and use the AI to streamline the process.
It's
for
definitely
everyone
at scale, and we are now talking with the European agency to scale that in Europe, and hopefully we'll replicate that with FDA.
Well, and hopefully we can share the insights across
exactly.
nations, right?
That's the whole point, because since it's being done by the algorithm, it's always being done the same thing, and so it's all automated, and so you can move faster and faster in detecting things because it's all being done the same way.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing about that. I mean, it's super interesting technology, and it's great that you're bringing Europe to the US. Where can people go to learn more about Synapse Medicine?
Super easy. You go on our website, so it's basically synapse-medicine.com.
Awesome, and we'll include that in the show notes as well. Thanks so much for talking with us, and thanks everyone for watching. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, Clement.